History parchments always write the bright tales of the victors. However, if you press your ear against the cold, damp stones in the lowest dungeons of Hogwarts, they will whisper to you a dark truth, forgotten by time. It was the cruel days of the 10th century. The sky was lit not by stars, but by the witch hunt pyres lit by Muggles. Fear had descended upon all of Europe like a dementor, condemning anyone bearing magic blood to hide in the shadows. Magic was slowly on the brink of extinction. Right in the midst of this despair, on the peak of the misty and windy Scottish mountains, 4 lonely silhouettes came together, the 4 most powerful, most unique wizards of their time. The lion-hearted Godric Gryffindor from the wild moorlands, the compassionate daughter of the broad valleys, Helga Hufflepuff, descending from the steep peaks of the mountains, dazzling with her brilliance, Rowena Ravenclaw, and gliding from the dark bogs of the east, the cunning Salazar Slytherin. They were so contrasting to each other that even standing side by side was a miracle. But that night, on the edge of that windy cliff, they combined their magic and made an unbreakable vow. They would build an invincible castle, a sanctuary to protect young wizards and keep magic alive. The foundations of Hogwarts were laid that night. But remember, no legendary wall can rise without arrogance, blood, and dark secrets mixing into the soil. And the secrets these 4 founders buried in the depths of the castle were far more dangerous than the Muggle fires outside. The founders built the castle. Yes, that's true. But if you think Hogwarts is merely a lifeless building made of stone, wood, and mortar, you are sorely mistaken. The founders poured such ancient, such intense magic into the soil of the valley that, the moment the first foundation stone was laid, the castle took a deep breath. The walls became veins, and the magic became blood. Hogwarts gained a consciousness of its own. But who designed this flawless, massive labyrinth? When the 4 founders sat at the table, there was a mysterious 5th person with them, whose name was erased from the history books. The architect of Hogwarts. The man standing silently in that golden statue at the entrance of the Great Hall in the movies. The architect sacrificed his own soul to those parchments while drawing the plans of the castle. Legend has it, he never died. He merged into this breathing stone labyrinth he created. Just think about it. Those massive staircases that change direction on Fridays, fake doors, secret rooms that appear only when you truly need them. These weren't architectural mistakes or a funny joke. The reason the staircases change places is that the castle itself wants to test the intelligence and attention of the students inside. The castle is alive. It can help you, hide you from the dark, or lose you in its endless, cold corridors until you go mad. The inside of the castle was active and mysterious, yes, but the real terror lay just outside its borders. When the Hogwarts grounds were chosen, they were not alone in that misty valley. These dark lands of Scotland had been the home of the wildest magical creatures for centuries. Godric and Salazar joined forces and made a pact. They drove all the dangerous creatures, giant spiders and bloodthirsty monsters, in the valley behind those dense trees. Today, we call that wooded area the Forbidden Forest. The Forbidden Forest is not actually a forest. It's a massive, dark prison built in Hogwarts' backyard. Do you think Hagrid protects the forest? Perhaps what he really protects is not the forest, but preventing what is inside from coming out. What about the inside of the castle? How was it possible for this massive stone labyrinth to feed hundreds of students every day, to prepare those magnificent feasts? This is where Helga Hufflepuff and Rowena Ravenclaw step in. Helga went to the most oppressed beings of the wizarding world, the House-Elves. She offered them a safe haven in the castle, but it had a price. Endless and invisible service. With the binding spells Rowena Ravenclaw found in ancient spellbooks, hundreds of House-Elves were bound to the kitchens of Hogwarts forever. Helga's intention was perhaps to protect them, but ultimately she made them the silent slaves of the castle. Hufflepuff's loyalty was legendary, but what about the forced loyalty sworn to her? As the castle's construction progressed, those unbreakable bonds between the founders slowly began to be poisoned. Godric Gryffindor's bravery was legendary, yes, but this bravery often walked arm in arm with blinding arrogance. To protect the castle, he went to the Dark Lords of the Underground, the Goblins. Goblin King Ragnar I forged an invaluable sword for Godric. However, according to Goblin belief, the true owner of an object is its maker. The buyer merely rents it. When Godric took the sword, he never returned it. When the Goblins sent assassins to take the sword back, Godric repelled them all and threatened to wipe out the entire Goblin race. The lion's bravery had splashed the first blood onto the foundations of Hogwarts. But the darkest tragedy in the castle found Rowena, who came from the peaks of the mountains. Intelligence does not always bring light to its bearer. Rowena's daughter, Helena, was so tired of remaining in the shadow of her mother's immense intellect that she stole her mother's famous diadem, the crown that grants wisdom, and fled to the forests of Albania. Rowena's pride was so great that she couldn't confess to the other founders that her daughter was a thief. Instead, she sent the Dark Man, who harboured a sickly love for her daughter, the Slytherin nobleman we know today as the Bloody Baron, to find her. When the Baron found Helena in a dark forest and she refused to return with him, he succumbed to his rage. He took Helena's life right there and then took his own. Intelligence might have gifted Hogwarts a massive library, but Rowena's flawless arrogance was eternally etched into the school's corridors as blood and tears. As the castle walls rose, the darkness of the outside world began to seep inside. Salazar Slytherin is always described in history books as a ruthless, dark wizard obsessed with purebloods. But why? Was Salazar born evil? The truth is, what poisoned Salazar's heart was not hatred, but sheer terror. In that dark age when Muggles threw wizards into the fire, Salazar was mortally afraid that children from non-magical families would leak Hogwarts' location to the outside. He wanted to change the rules to prevent that safe fortress from turning into a graveyard. However, this demand was outright rejected by his closest friend, with whom he once fought shoulder to shoulder, Godric Gryffindor. That final, earth-shattering confrontation between the two legendary brothers, bravery and cunning, cracked the walls of Hogwarts. There was no going back now. Salazar was forced to leave the school he built with his own hands, his home. But before leaving the castle for good, That misty bog wizard left a dark legacy behind.
Into the deepest, dampest dungeons of Hogwarts, he built a massive room that could only be opened by someone of his own bloodline, a parcel mouth, the Chamber of Secrets. Most people think that room was built merely to hunt students. In reality, Salazar's true intention was to leave behind an invincible monster, a basilisk, to protect the castle from the inside if Muggle armies ever raided the school. Salazar's obsessive protective instinct eventually turned into a deadly curse, and those massive yellow eyes waited patiently in the dark for centuries. Time is cruel. It wears down even the most powerful wizards. Salazar had left the castle. Rowena faded away with the pain of her daughter, and Helga and Godric grew old. As the inevitable end awaiting them approached, the remaining founders had only one vital question on their minds. When we pass away from this world, who will sort our students? That very night, in the highest tower of the castle, Godric Gryffindor took off the old, worn-out pointed leather hat on his head and placed it on the table. The founders, without their wands, sealed their minds into that ordinary hat, using only ancient magical power. Godric infused his bravery, Helga her loyalty, Rowena her intelligence, and even though he had left the Castle Salazar's cunning vision into this hat, the hat had come alive. Thus, the most ancient, wisest object of Hogwarts was born, the sorting hat. The secret of the sorting hat does not lie in its fabric, but in the dark legilimency, the mind-reading magic woven into it. The moment the hat is placed on your head, it delves into the deepest folds of your brain. It reads your hidden fears, your forgotten memories. Because the hat sees not who you are, but who you choose to be. On your first day at Hogwarts, when that hat touches your head, the spirits of the 4 legendary founders are actually wandering through your mind simultaneously. Now I ask you, if you had walked into that great hall tonight and the sorting hat was placed on your head, what would it whisper to you? Gryffindor's reckless bravery, Ravenclaw's sharp wit, Hufflepuff's unwavering loyalty, or Slytherin's dark and cunning ambition? Go down to the comments right now and whisper to that old hat which house you belong to. If you want to continue discovering these dark and magical secrets, not written in parchments with me, cast a powerful spell on that subscribe button. Remember, help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it. Mischief managed for now.